Hello, my name is John McAllister, and I am the host of the Setting Trick podcast. Welcome. A lot of bridge neophytes, when I tell them about playing in tournaments, the most common response is, do you play for money? So what people don't realize is that for a lot of the events I play in, I actually hire a player to be my partner and hire players to be my teammates. In bridge parlance, we call that person a sponsor. Perhaps it would be more accurate and correct to call that person a playing sponsor, because it's not like I'm doing it so I can play on the team. And today we have the hottest sponsor in the game, our first ever on the Setting Trick. He's 83 years old. He's had an amazing career as an inventor and a businessman. And his team, consisting of him playing with Hall of Famer Eddie Wold, and then two of the greatest bridge partnerships of all time, Jeff Mextroth playing with Eric Rodwell, commonly known to bridge players as Meckwell, and Tor Helnes playing with Gea Helgamo. I mean, this guy has a squad, and he has won because of it. We've had 3 online North American bridge team championships because of COVID, and Mike's team has won 2 outright and then tied for first and the third one. You can't do any better than that. Here he is, Mike Levine. So we are here today with an inventor and also the driving force behind the hottest team in bridge, Mike Levine. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You have won all 3 of the North American Bridge Championships. I guess you tied for first in one of them, but you have won all 3 of the knockouts that we've had online.
That's correct.
Will you tell us about that?
Well, for me, it's a lifetime dream in that I had a choice in college between, as my mother would call it, being a bridge bum or being a good engineer. And thankfully, I was able to do both. And so when I retired at age 48, I had to do my wife said to do 2 things, something for your body and something for your mind. So bridge came about on my mind, and body was tennis. And I said, if I want to learn bridge quickly and make up for all the years that I was basically not playing, I needed to find somebody good. And I made some inquiries, and out pops Zeke Jabor and Chucky Berger as the 2 best Michigan players. And Zeke was available. We started a 25-year partnership and started playing bridge on a serious level, and as students and studying the game. And we went so far, but unfortunately, Zeke became sick with his Parkinson's and still was a good player, but not the same player. Unfortunately, now he's in a nursing home. But anyhow, a great guy. And so I guess I'm off the topic a little bit, but so after Zeke, I tried like Dennis McGarry and whatnot. And I began to find that with relatively poor teams, we would get some international and national high scratches, like twice in the transnationals with a team non-experts. We would, get into the knockout phase and stuff like that. And of course, with Zeke and I and Mary we were all the senior events, all the senior nationals. At one time, I was defending with both the senior knockouts and the senior Swift, and we threw in a North American. So that's what Zeke and I were able to do during the time. So from there on, it took a while to settle on Eddie, and for Eddie to settle on me.
This is Eddie Wold. This is Eddie Wold. Your current partner is
Eddie Wold, my current
Hall of Famer Eddie Wold.
Yeah, and the magic was so different in that Zeke actually wrote an article on my wonder bids. Like, I wonder what this bid means. And Eddie said, you've got good instinct. Try them out. see if I can field them. And once we tried it out and see if he could field them, then I realized that I could codify these bids. And Eddie and I started to do very well. And then I don't know what Meg said, but we got, getting back to your point, picked Eddie and I. We didn't pick them. I think it may have started that we beat the nickel team in the senior nationals about 3 years ago. And because soon after that, Meg and Eric became available. And we talked, and we created a team that had the nucleus of Eddie and myself and Meg and Rodwell. And then all of a sudden, the Norwegians became available. So all of my teammates at this point says, you have to take the Norwegians because, we have to settle this argument once and forever. Who's the best pair in the world? And, it's Helgamo and Tor or Meckwell. And we put it all together, which put me in a terrible spot because I'm saying, I don't want to disappoint my team. You know what I mean? We have the chance of the best team in the world, but it's only going to work if I can play and not drag them down. And so I put all my creative energy into bridge, and I went 24/7 into bridge. And there's a lot of technical things I could talk about later or something like that. But here's the best thing that I did is Oren Kriegel was in tears actually because he realized he had to go to law school because he was concerned that bridge, he's 25 years old. And
this is your former partner, Oren, he's your coach.
Okay. He's my coach. Eddie said, you need a coach. And that was great because we could drill hand after hand after hand on the web, on BizBase. You could set up hands. We actually pioneered new ground, too technical for this blog. And I got an intellectual understanding as what takes tricks and what doesn't take tricks. And what be, in the theme, the philosophy of bidding. And I changed the words, about this one's strong, this one's stronger, and this is strongest. That's silly words. This is above a minimum. This has, with a maximum in your hand and a fit, we'd like to proceed with the auction. Or the strongest bid is, if you've got the right control, we're going to be at slam. So once you reorganize your thought thinking, then you can figure out in all combinations, are you saying, I'm casually interested, or I'm interested if you're interested? And then the other one is, I'm interested if you have the exact things that I need. So once you think of it that way, it applies clearly almost all 2/1 bidding and stuff like that. And people have other names, they have the names they choose are like serious, what is it?
Serious 3 no trump.
Serious 3 no trump.
Yeah.
Or a qubit in this spot is demanding. You know what I mean? Or repeat 3 of the major is simply, I'm proud of my opener. Okay. And then let's explore further.
So Mike, are you saying you're not the weakest player on the team? Is that what you're saying?
I'm a scary player. I have foibles of being 83. I have what is Curtis used to call it, a brain fart. I'll define a brain fart. A brain fart is a bid you made today. Okay? That you wouldn't have made yesterday and you wouldn't make tomorrow.
Okay.
And so being elderly, I'm more subject to that. Occasionally, a little more forgetful.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm intellectualize the whys of. I'm the guy. If you have to find the right bid to solve the right problem and get past your partner in the process, I view myself. That's where I do the best. My declare play reasonable, but not. I just watch my teammates play cards. There's got to be a possible way, and including come up with plays that I just can't think of in real time. Their declare play just when you need it, they got it. If it's in my wheelhouse, I'll get it. If it's not in my wheelhouse, I won't. Eddie is so intense. I mean, he won't let it. We could have win the hand by 15 imps, but we still talk about, excuse me, what a schmuck I was to make that bid. You know what I mean? But anyhow, we get along really well. And I
Okay, so Mike, here we are. I'm nervous. Thank you for joining me. You are, as we said, you've won the last 3 North American online bridge championships.
Right.
You've got a great team you're playing with Hall of Famer Eddie Wold. You've got Jeff Maxtroth and Eric Rodwell, and then you've got Tor Helness and Guy Helgamo.
Right.
This is an amazing team. As someone who hires professional bridge players and likes to play in these big events, like this is a dream team that you have.
That's true.
Maxtroth and Rodwell, like arguably the greatest bridge partnership of all time, reached out to you.
Right.
And your partner Eddie Wold about playing. Like, what's that like? What's it like to have Jeff Maxtroth and Eric Rodwell want to play on your team?
Scary. Because I'm so nervous that I will do something so stupid as to put the winning out of reach. You know what I mean? So I don't want to embarrass myself in our partnership with coming back with, some horrible results. And which also forced me to hyper focus. I have ADHD, so hyper focus and think about bridge 24/7 and how it's put together in a way that most people won't. Let me give you a sample, and maybe this will be helpful, John. In my mind, both Jacobi transfers and Stayman are not conventions. And why do I say that? Assuming everybody knows that you want the no trump bidder to always declare when he has a flat balanced hand that says that the partner of the no trump bidder, strong no trump bidder, must always be a liar. He's not allowed to bid what he has. And so therefore, he's got two duties to get to a 5-card major, show a 5-card major if he has one, and or ask the no trump bidder whether he has a 4-card major so we can get into a 4 forfeit. And all the other bids, more or less, are simply what level. I've got 10 and partner's got an opening no trump, going to get the game somewhere. And so now the question is there a 5-3 major, which is usually better, or a 4-4 major, which is usually better than no trump? In imps, match point's a little different. And so therefore, one guy's a liar, and now so that there's no memorization of these conventions. It's just logic. And so Eddie and I play a few cases of sort of a more complicated relay than most. I'm not going to get into a lot of details. So what you do is we have the following capability, which is simply this: we can open a weak two, and we have the ability to find out my partner's the weak 2 bidder is 6-4 and find his 4-card suit. If I'm interested in that, we can show singletons in certain suits. Singletons in the majors. We can show 4-card majors. We can show hands that are immediately weak or immediately 8+. And we assume when it goes 2 diamonds past 2 no trump, that partner, 17-point player. She doesn't need 17 points if you got the right cards. And so therefore, these are all the possibilities. So we can play all sorts of fancy things, not fancy things, logical things, without the weight of memorizing everything. Because in the past, I remember going on the card with Zeke, and Kogan came with, this is what you do with all possible bids over one no trump, and responsive, and we memorize it. So I memorized very few bids and derived the other bids by pure logic. And that does wonders for your game, I'll tell you that. Just wonders. And then you get to answer the real problems. And, in a hand that I screwed up, I always win the bad ones. I have a partner opens a weak 2. I've got a flat 17 with 5 spades. And now, how the heck, if partner's got a 3-card spade fit, even with a bad hand, we have a play for 4 spades.
Yeah.
And how do I get to do that? So now I can bid 2 spades and not absolutely forcing. But if partner has 3 spades, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even 2 spades and a big hand, he can push the auction forward safely. Past 2 spades if you've got a bad hand. If he got 0 or 1 spade, retreat to his original major. Yeah, his original weak 2 suit. And with 3 and something reasonable, 3-card fit, go on and it lays down for 4. So you take the burden out of bidding. Everybody wants to give you a recipe. What's the difference between a good cook and a chef? A good cook is a good cook. A chef is a creator, and as well as a good cook. So everybody wants to teach you bid. You know, if you have 15 points, you bid this. If you have 19 points, you bid that. If you have 22 points, you bid this. And nobody wants to give you the whys. And if you have 22 points, you know, what do you need from partner to make a game? And it turns out what you need from partner to make a game is not points, it's an entry. So if I open, let's say, 2 clubs play, a hand that shows 22 plus, the question I really have for partner is, do you have a potential entry? And guess what? 2 queens turns out to be the entry you need. So two queens, a king, or an ace is what we start bidding on those kinds of hands. So it's all the logic aspects, and everybody else wants to give you a recipe. People will hate me, but I'm willing to say this in public. You know, it tends to be women prefer recipes, and the reason we lose a lot of men is, you know, if you're a former business, you know, executive, and you're coming back in there, you gave up recipes a long time. You know, everything you do is you take the available facts and you add your own logic and you make your own decisions. So now let's get away from the recipe theory and get into the logic theory. And if we change that, I think we get a lot more people to play bridge and and make it more interesting, because if you want to get back to bridge and husband and spouse both get to enjoy it, a man's approach is different. God help me, all the women in the world are going to hate me, but
We don't have that many listeners, so.
Okay, so well, hey, you know, if I say outrageous things enough, we can get some more. How's about that?
Maybe.
So, anyhow, so it's become a passion and a different way of thinking. And now, of course, excuse me, I like to use a 4-letter word, but I won't. But now Eddie says, all right, Mike, you're now in the best team in the world. You're a great player, and we needed all your insight. What we need more from you is to play straight down the middle, or as Mike Capoletti says, boards on the table. Your job is not to win. Your job is to not lose. And I say, Eddie, I'm trying, but I play to win, and so I have difficulty not coming up with insights. But guess what? They still love me because I have a good percentage. You know, when I take a bid that's out of the ordinary, I'm right more often than I'm wrong, and so it's still acceptable. But I occasionally get a 1400, but I also get my 1430s when I'm right. So they tolerate me.
When I talk to a non-bridge player, they'll say, do you play for money? And I say, no, there's really no money in tournaments I mean, people can earn money as, playing professionally, but even when I hire like a professional team and we do well, we don't earn money. And I think that's a foreign concept to people, like how you start sponsoring a team when when the goal is strictly the satisfaction of doing your best against the best in the world.
Well, my rationalizations are simply this, is bridge is so addictive. I want to find out that if I spent the time, you know, like the professional bridge players, you know, en masse, I guess Mac is over 100,000 these days, you know, and stuff like that. What would I really be? So I want to prove something to myself. And then, especially as you get older, there's very few things in your life where you're in the zone, the sweat is pouring down, you know what I mean? There might be a whole bunch of kibitzers watching the table, but you're invisible to that. And just to get that feeling and get into the zone it's addictive like sex. I mean, the feelings are different, but the glow is the same. And that's true. Well, hey, that's great lines when they come out that way. I agree with you. But the goal is the same, I mean, and when I stop and say how much money it's costing, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? But guess what? I'll just spill it. When you have a few bucks, you start, and you have a whole bunch of problems, the world problems, sickness, illness, death, COVID. You've got a spendthrift child or something like that. So if you give the child more money, they'll be more of a spendthrift. And if you don't give them enough money, they go hungry. I mean, you have these conflicts, and you realize that, I went into business not to make money and studied most people. I mean, like the Carnegies and Rockefellers gave it all away. They didn't even want it. So at the end of the day, I see wealth as Scrooge McDuck sitting in his money bin. And, in the money bin, he had jewels and pendants with needles sticking at him. So what is he going to do? Go sit on his pile of gold and, can't do anything with it. So you use it for your own personal hedonistic enjoyment and truly give it away. I'm being nominated as we speak. There's a presidential medal for technology and innovation. And it's a voluntary team. I didn't start it. There's about 15 people trying to get the right people to nominate and endorse me and the right thing said, and just be a privilege to be on the potential list because it's quite a big deal. Your title after you get the medal is a laureate. I don't know what that means, but I think a poet laureate sounds good to me. I'll take the poet laureate. So these are the kinds of things that make my life is anything but quiet. Same thing with the Bridge Hall of Fame. You and I have done work in the past too. Is contributed to Bridge and a decent enough player and a decent enough results this year is, I'm running for the Blackwood Award. Okay, stuff like that. So at 83, life is not quite simple at all. It's more complicated than you possibly. And the bridge things are, I mean, as he said, nobody has won 3 in a row. And Tor said it right. He said, Eddie and I always left them with a lead. So instead of claiming whether how good a bridge player I am or not, with the client out, and with a lead, no team could want any better.
Yeah.
And guess what? Remember, we tied 2 of the 3. Without that, we wouldn't have won. So.
You tied 2 of the 3?
Yeah, we played against.
I know you tied
No. Officially, we won. Let me tell you about the first one. The first one was simple. I forget the guy's name. It's a kid playing with Hammond in a good group. And,
Finn Kolesnik.
Yeah, right. And I was playing against him all the time. He was a very good player. And so the first one, all 12 of us decided to not have a playoff. And the reason is I was going to be the oldest one that ever won one of those events. And he was the youngest one to lose.
Oh, wow.
So that's why we didn't do it. But came the second one, we tied again. And
then you did have a playoff. Is that right?
We did have a playoff, and then we beat him, which is, I was blood. Nobody on the second one was going to give an inch. And then the third one, actually, we had a very easy route because our opponents lost in the top 5.
The higher
seed.
All
out of it, except for us by the time the finals came around. So that wasn't so hard, because we had a competent team, but not a top 5 team to play in the finals. So we won that easily. And then it's more than that because it's all these online events, and I think we win like half of them or more. Atlantic thing, I don't know, J-Law 1, 2, 3, 4, stuff like that. We're always first, way up there in every one of them. Like it's pretty consistent. And also my fear is, as I get a little older, my name recall isn't what it was 5 years ago. There's a whole bunch of, I can see some aging differences. and my eyesight's getting really bad, and so soon I'll have to quit. But what Bob Dylan said it right: rail against the dying of the light. And I said, you're gonna have to bury me. Yeah.
Tell me about your eyesight. What can you see when you
Okay,
play
what
bridge?
let's see, I can, if you watch me, if if I put the hand like this and they're all sorted,
Right in front
I
of your
use
face.
one eye, I can read my cards.
Wow.
At the table under bright lights, somebody has to read to me card by card everyone played. Somebody has to read to me the dummy because I really can't see it. And so I have to memorize all that stuff. And it turns out it isn't that hard. Plus, I can remember, and many of us could, even back in the 50s. Gosh, it was in 50s already. Holy mackerel. I graduated college in 58, so we're playing in 55, 56. We didn't have any hand records. So you
Yeah.
had to so I could memorize pretty much as I wanted to, every bit, every hand, and every card. So the handicap of memorizing the dummy is not, except for funny things. I had a 9-card suit, and the director actually sorted the boards, and I had 5 suits. And hearts on this end and hearts on this one. Got 5 hearts, couple of spades, couple of diamonds, and then four hearts. The king of clubs and the queen of spades together. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was hilarious too. But it just takes a little bit of pressure, a little bit slower. So I'm constantly trying to claim as much as possible. To be honest with you, at the level we play, all reasonable claims are accepted. What I mean. You don't have to
Yeah.
play the hand out to the nth degree. Somebody might ask, "How do you play it?" And then I'll tell them.
Yeah.
But other than that, of course, they don't want the time pressure either.
Is it easier for you to play on the computer than like with holding real cards?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. If you take a look, I'm going to turn my laptop around and show you what I'm using.
Okay.
I have an 80-inch
Oh, wow.
screen.
Wow.
80,
Yeah.
you can see it.
Yeah.
Here's my hand, so you can see
Right.
some
Yeah.
reference. And so the computer is better for me. Cards are okay. Again, just a little sorting is very important.
9 cards too.
Right. And reading a suit, like people want to read like a suit, like ace king, and 3 more for no spot cards, or ace king, 10-9, third with spot cards. So if you read them that way, somebody's reading that realizes that ace king, 10-9 is. So that helps me a little.
You have somebody that sits with you when you play on the computer and helps you read.
Absolutely. I have actually Mike Capoletti's daughter. She's always Sky. She's a novice, and she sits next to me. She actually clicks the mouse. You know what I mean? And reads me the cards.
Is this Mike Capoletti Jr.'s daughter that you're talking about?
No, his dad's child. Dad's
his
child
sister.
Sky is 59 years old.
Oh, okay.
So she's taking care of me bridge-wise. I didn't feel that I could have like Mike sit at my side. It's not fair. I mean, it's impropriety. You know what I mean? Mikey, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, I get it.
Saying.
So it sounds like you probably can't drive a car. Can you?
Oh, not at all. My big thing today is, aside from these medals and stuff, is there's a trail in Michigan called the Lake to Lake Trail that I organized about 6 years ago. It's an old rail bed. I'll send you a little video clip, and it said I was a little bored when I started it, and my son said, "Dad, you can do a lot of things in all these inventions, but you can't move a bureaucracy." Right in there, I said, "Watch me." And I was just so determined. And we got that trail open just before COVID. I was leading it. I had to use an electric bike because I couldn't really do the whole thing. But I rode the whole thing with electric bike, 50% me and 50% electric. And the trail was finished on the same day. So we rode over hot asphalt. They got the asphalt down in the morning of the ride coming.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that good. And the best part of that is the DNR, who just went to work helpless every day because everything was a bureaucratic nightmare. They're out there to save trees and save animals, save wildlife, provide recreation areas, and bureaucracies inadvertently, they just by their nature, just are you just can't get anything done. All they do is make sure. One guy said, all we do is make the paperwork correct. The fact that we get any miles of trails paved is incidental. And
How long is the trail?
What?
How long is the trail?
260 miles.
Oh,
It
wow.
goes from Lake Huron, from Port Huron,
Wow.
overlooking Canada, all the way to South Haven, which overlooks Milwaukee, except you can't see it. It's in opposite Milwaukee in the Lake Michigan.
And so you're able to guide your own bike. So you can ride a bike, but
I can ride a bike because I'm going slow enough to see a major obstacle, and that works.
Do you ride a bike regularly?
I used to for years. I would ride 4,000 miles a year, and I more or less stopped doing that. But if you're going slow enough, you could avoid, and let's say there's a big branch falling on the trail, I can avoid it, and whatnot. I can see that well. But if I'm going 60 miles an hour, I can't avoid anything. I can't read street signs at all anymore.
When did you last drive a car?
Legally, wait a minute, about 4 years ago. And
4 years
ago. I gave up. I should have stopped driving about 7 years ago, but a combination of GPS, local knowledge. But I finally got into a fender bender, and I said, it's time. It's just time. But thank God for Uber came along, and I didn't miss a beat.
So you didn't get a driver, you got Uber.
I got Uber. Yeah, that works better. The driving got to be an issue because everybody wants to help you. You know what I mean? But, you need to go to the barbershop. Let's see. I have to stop here, and this is on the way here, and this is on the way here. And when I drop you off, we'll wave to each other. If I'm the first one, they'll come right back. If not, I'll go around here. So they make you feel, they don't get it, but they make you feel helpless. Uber's just say, where do you want to go? You want to go there now? I go there now. And without it.
Where are you talking to me from today?
I am talking, and I just sold my estate in Michigan last year. And Michigan in the summers, Boca Raton, Florida in the winters. And I am now in the summers for business, for rails and trails purposes to Michigan. But I live here in Florida.
So you're in Florida right now?
I'm in Florida right now, and I designed this. Just turn the thing around. So I put this addition, this 2-story addition, and it's just interesting because now that I have high elevation, it makes Florida, from flat you can't see anything to give it some verticality and make it pretty, make it nice. So I'm overlooking the golf course and the nearby ponds, so it's pretty nice.
I found your resume online.
Okay.
It's hard to believe that you retired at 48, given all the inventions that you have had your hands involved in.
Yeah, there was a real reason. I actually, 48 is where I commenced. It really amplified, got me time to work on my inventions and then time to license them. So I never really retired in the sense of I've always had more than enough things to do. So right after that, like the on-screen programming VCR thing, coupled with the TV guide that you have in your house, give me sports, what's on now and stuff like that. Search, type in Law and Order and get it. That stuff I did after I retired. So I was busier in retirement. I should define that I was not working for a salary. Okay, let's put it that way.
I see. What were you doing? What was your your mother talked you out of being a bridge bum.
Yeah.
What was your original profession?
I started college at 15, which was not abnormal for bright kids in New York City. I went to Stuyvesant High School, and NYU had a 5-year program, and you got 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Liberal Arts and a Bachelor of Engineering. And I played a lot of bridge in the first 3 years, and I didn't actually know that I needed to be admitted to the College of Engineering. And I thought it was one of the funniest things that ever happened in my life. Is this professor out of the blue said, "We're not letting you in." And he said, "And Mr. Levine, you'll never be a good engineer. I think I'm doing you a favor." And that's the biggest struggle ever because uh, I'm a problem
Like you have
solver.
60 patents to your
Yeah,
name. You have
60
60
patents in my
patents to
name.
your name.
Oh,
And this guy says
no,
he
and
didn't
the
think you'd
guy
be a
says,
good
I mean,
engineer.
it's sort of awful. My daughter picked up an article from Harvard saying, how do they find the Mike Levines? They don't know how to do it. How do you pick people to get into Harvard? Some are legacies, right? Some are super GPAs from super schools and stuff like that. But they don't get the creative ones. Maybe it takes hardship to be creative. It takes something. I don't know. This stuff, this seems obvious to me. I mean, the patents that I have, some of them are jokes, but they're crucially important.
What's an example of a joke pet?
Doing this VCR, you want to take the VCR recording program. I'm sorry, one step later. You want to record Law and Order. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not Channel 4 at 2 o'clock Monday
Right.
through Friday. You know
Right.
what I mean? You want to. I don't care what channel is on, where it is. So I want Law and Order. Oh yeah. Well, it's not going to work because you have to tell the VCR what your channel lineup. That channel 22 is TNT and channel 64 is USA and stuff like that. So how do you get? And they still have the same problem. Left arrow, hit an A, and stuff like that. It's way too tedious. They're never going to use the thing. So therefore, you have a way to do it. And so I thought for a while, and zip code. I'm sorry, the first one I thought it was area code on a phone. And then, of course, the area code started to drift around the phone with cell phones. And then I found the zip code, and the zip code gives you your geographical location. So if I know your geographical location, I know a lot. I know your time zone. I know what channels you receive. And if I know the channels you receive, I can give you a lineup if it's off the air, or there's only one or two cable companies that have the franchise in your area. Let's just say one for argument's sake. So if I know your zip code, I know what cable company provides you. Therefore, I know your channel lineup. It's trivial. You know what I mean? But it's absolutely necessary because nobody at home would be able to set up their VCR when they got it. And then if you think about it, which I did patent it for the whole world, is all of the truisms are wrong. In other words, if I ask you your address, you know how you should respond. Now, a few people are finally picking it up 25 years later. I ask you your address, it should be zip code first, because once you have the zip code, it can automatically enter the city and state that you're in, right?
Yeah.
And street name second within the zip code. And it is, if I type M and A, there's only one main street, one street in the zip code that has an M and an A on it, right?
Yeah.
And then you put in the number last, and instead of entering, I don't know how many digits, just enter 5 or 6 digits, and you got the whole thing pre-filled in. And then the other thing is sorting, and there's just so many things that I dwell on which are not patentable. But in America, we have our date is month, day, year.
Yeah.
In Europe, it's day, month, year.
Yeah.
But the correct way is year being the biggest number, month being a subdivision of a year, day being a subdivision of a month, hour, minute, second. So you have a perfect sort. So you can sort things by time order. And it's irretrievable because, and we're not going to change things like that. But these are the silly things I dwell on in a hot bathtub at 3 o'clock in the morning when I can't sleep. The biggest thing to take care of global warming and whatnot is to reduce population. The problem with reducing population is who decides. I have these many. It's called global war. Nobody's going to go along with anything like that. So they give up on it. So if somebody's going to tell me how many kids I'm going to say no. But if somebody said to me that all we have to do, now my calculations are a little rough, but they're decent. If the entire world just delayed having their first child by 3 months, we'd be in a population decline. Just every group together. And they don't all have to do it. Some will, some won't. They just delay 90 days, the population would decline and decline fairly rapidly. So it takes us about, something like 80 years or so to double. You know what I mean? So it'll take 80 years to halve. So if we're having, today we're only having 101 kids being born for 100 deaths. All we have to do is make a slight switch where we have 101 deaths for 100 kids being born globally. Population declines, and or a different thing is delay your first child to your 26 and have as many as you want after you're 26, and it don't make any difference. I'll give you the bottom line. But hey, maybe you want to publish it sometime. The bottom line is something like this: if mankind had no children for 40 years, nobody gets the answer, but I'll give it to you because I don't want to waste your time here. You can probably, figure it out if you want. We'd be extinct for all interpretation. Females are essentially very sterile. You know what I mean? And maybe there'd be a few 100,000 around, pick any year that, maybe 1 million or 2, but we'd lose 99% of our population.
Wow.
And so that's how fragile we really are. So if we wait till we're 26, they just can't. So anybody after 26 who wants or has as many trials they have, it's just too late. Guarantees. If you take 2 kids at 15 versus 2 kids at 30, 2 different families. So the 2 at 15 beget, so that when the person is 30, she has 2 plus 4 grandchildren. When she's 60, she has 2 plus 4 plus 8. You can do the math yourself. It's geometric, and so it's as important when you have your children as the number of children.
So Bill Gates is a bridge. Bill Gates is a bridge player. Have you talked to Bill? And he's a global warming.
I have actually. I have feelers out to Bill via Bob Hammond, since we have a lot of things in common. I don't know Bill personally. That maybe he would be one of my sponsoring letters. And we haven't heard back, but I don't think we will because he's going through a divorce. And
sure,
that's the last thing he wants to do with this.
Totally.
But we'd enjoy each other. I played against him many times in Omaha, but I respect somebody's privacy, so I haven't gone over and introduced myself because he decided to play bridge.
Yeah.
He gets very intense when he plays bridge. He sweats. He takes his gloves. You don't want to ruin that for somebody.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes. But anyhow, so we can easily do this stuff if there's a political will, because I'm not telling anybody to do anything. The only problem I have is the last time people talked about population control, it was only heard the middle class. So the middle class has substantially reduced their kids away below, and the other people just maintain are way above. In Africa, even in my grandfather's time in the South, the 1900s, he was born in 1910, so 1920 or 1930, one of 8 kids, you know what I mean? But only 4 of which lived to reproductive age, and only 3 of which actually had any children. That was the rules of engagement, even in America in the 1930s. But now we provide let's say in a poor town in Africa, we provide a well with clean water and PVC pipe. Well, the survival rate of their children just from that creates a disaster at the other end. And they overbreed because they're just doing what their parents and grandparents did.
Sure.
Nothing bad. And but now they have too many survivors. So you're screwed. The Aswan Dam is the best example in Egypt. The limitations to the food supply was the Nile running amok every year, with the flooding. Once you control it with a dam, you double the food supply, double the water for irrigation, double the food supply, and double the population. And guess what? You haven't gone any place. I feel so sorry for both ends of the spectrum. The ones that fail to reproduce themselves and the other ones that wind up with too many kids. Not enough technology and infrastructure to, their farming practices are dated and the kids are here and real and starvation, which doesn't have to happen.
So the question I was going to ask you earlier I'm so glad I didn't ask it to you because you spoke about the population thing. But so I have Hulu for my television. They're my provider and they always ask me for my location. And you have a patent for putting television channels. Is Hulu something that you are a benefactor of from this patent that you have?
No, not really. But the guys who created it couldn't do everything. And that is, without some electronic tinkering and whatnot, automatically within the protocol of the internet, they don't know where your physical location is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they want to target some information. So they want your location. Remember, if I know your zip code, I know your demographics. If I know your male, if I know your zip code, if I know your age, I'm a leg up on what kind of advertising that you'd be interested in looking at.
Yeah.
I'm not going to advertise Barbie dolls. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's the backwards way of the zip code. The real zip code is, think about all the hotel reservations we make.
Yeah.
Look at all the billions of keystrokes, because they don't start with the zip code first. I mean, I can create an app in a half hour. Whereas if I know your zip code, I can show you a circle on a Google map exactly where you live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
that's so true, Mike. That's so true.
And so what I'm trying to say is people think
zip code first.
Yeah, zip code first. When I talk at colleges, there's Kalishnikov, I mean, I hate what he's done, but he's the epitome of what an inventor's all about. And he says it himself. He says, all things complicated are not useful. On a battlefield, if you have a gun that has to do 10 things accurately at once and ignores what his gun does, his claim to fame is when you pull the trigger on if you pull the trigger on an American gun, it goes click. It's jammed, right? His will always shoot. So people lose sight of the simplicity. Make it simple so it always shoots. Don't worry about the noise it makes or how high it is or whatever. Just keep it simple. And it turns out there are more Kalashnikovs than more in production today, and more Kalashnikovs around the world than there is any other U.S. Soviet armies with guns. So it's simple, stupid, and just worry about the simple stuff. And people just complicate their lives terribly by adding in factors that are irrelevant. But anyhow, enough of that stuff. I'm not sure if I'm getting you anything worthwhile for a bridge up the line, though.
Well,
are we doing any good?
I think you're a fascinating. This is fascinating what you're talking about, and bridge is a fascinating game. And I think part of what makes bridge so cool is that you and I know each other because we both love bridge.
Right.
So I actually thought at the beginning, I was hoping that this would be one of the least technical episodes we would do. And then you were actually being possibly the most technical talking about bridge things. And I was like, oh man, this totally didn't go the way that I expected. But
Expected
I
it
think
to. Okay.
I think this, I mean, part of the reason that I'm interested is your prolific, career prior to Bridge
Right.
that is now facilitating you having this super team. I mean, that's really interesting to me. And I mean, like there's the company TiVo. I remember when TiVo came
Oh,
out.
oh yeah.
In
I was very involved with most of the facets of TiVo. I didn't invent the TiVo per se, but I could tell you what is in it, my inventions.
Okay.
It's one thing to record a bunch of shows on a hard drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's great. But now you're stuck with the same problem you have with live TV. How do you sort those shows into something that you can watch? I've got 300 channels coming into my house, and I know there are lots of good stuff. I love various documentaries and stuff, but how do you find the good stuff? So within TiVo, you have the same problem as when you recorded this stuff. How do you organize it and display back to people? It's one thing to put it a bunch of scattered papers in a big pile in the corner. It's another thing to find out of the scattered pile of papers the paper you want to use and watch right now. So I view TiVo as a different situation. It's use the same techniques of searching elements, and I guess I'm not going to be a hit on the bridge. I mean, it's okay. I just realized that I can't. How do you keep it simple? Depends on if you want to make strong impressions on a few dedicated people or good impressions on a group of less dedicated people. I mean, that's a blogger's problem as well. Can you tell if somebody uses the word Stayman or Jacobi transfers, how many people turn off when they hear technical things like this, like that?
No, I can't. We're not that sophisticated. I'm sure there's a more sophisticated way to measure listenership, but as the host of this podcast, we've done like 37 or 8 episodes that we've published. And the only statistic that I have is downloads through our hosting company. And so I know that we've got like 29,000 downloads, but I don't have data for like the type of data that you're talking about. I mean, there might be a way to get that, but at the moment I have sort of that's the crude data, and it's frustrating because I think that I've become better as a listener and like better prepared and having better quality conversations with people like yourself, but the listener growth is flat. And one of the things that I've heard from people who are not bridge players, who I've asked them to listen to the podcast or they've been interested in listening, is that it's not really accessible for a non-bridge player. So our audience is limited potentially even to like high level bridge players, because like the average bridge player isn't necessarily going to be able to understand some of the conversations like that you and I are having at the beginning of the show about your two diamonds structure.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be the case. But is there anything of the conceptual side? Like, is it too technical that Stayman's not a convention? Probably is. It
Well,
requires
I
a
don't know. I
person.
don't know that you fully fleshed out how it wasn't a convention. You said that you made this bold statement that Stayman is not a convention, but I'm not sure that I understand why it's not a convention.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What I'm saying is, here's why it's not a convention. Number one is that the no Trump bidder is going to be the declarer. So you must be a liar. You cannot bid what's in your hand.
Okay.
Now you have all these two-level bids available to you. And what's
Yeah.
logical for them to mean? And then you go back, the one no Trump bidder has a choice of playing no Trump or some sort of suit. And major suits pay off big time, because, you know what I mean? So he needs to know about your major suit holdings. And so therefore, if you have to lie about your major suit holding, isn't it just reasonable? So if I have spades, I bid one under the spades. And if I have hearts, I bid, diamonds.
Yeah.
But if I bid clubs, we don't want to play diamonds, right?
Right.
So clubs has to have a different meaning, and the only meaning that's possible, since 5-card majors are covered, is asking about 4-card major. So that's what I mean. It's logic and not a convention.
What's a convention then?
Well, a convention, opening bid 2 no trump is 20 to 21. Okay,
Yeah.
that's just a mere agreement. You know what I mean? You can make systems that could lower the range or raise the range or something like that, but you have to have maybe a definition rather than a convention. Another convention is, let's say, an obscure one, which is exclusion Blackwood.
Yeah.
So if you have an unusual thing to the 5 level, we bypass many, many levels to them. The only logical inference you can have for doing that is, if I bid 1 spade, 2 diamonds, then game forcing. So why do I bid 5 diamonds? A little obscure, but and so you reason it out. So it becomes what's left. What's 3 diamonds? What's 4 diamonds? Split it. You know what I mean? 5 diamonds, and then when you go all the way to 5 diamonds, it must be a void, and then not a convention. What's the responses to 5 diamonds? And they're simply controls like aces, excluding the diamond ace. Of course, an ace against the void at best produces 1 trick. And
So exclusion is we are saying exclusion is a convention.
No. That
exclusion Blackwood.
Undiscussed, a great partnership should figure it out. First of all, figure out the 5 diamonds is a void. And secondly, somebody with a void must also have a fit for your suit. And so logically, if we have a fit and he wants to show a void, what the hell is he asking for? Controls, the number of aces, first round controls that you have in the exclusion suit. So you can play 5 diamonds undiscussed.
I get what you're saying. So you're saying if they can figure it out logically, it's not a convention.
It's not. But for example, 2 diamonds, 2 no trump, 3 hearts, and 3 spades. Who wants to declare the 2 no trump player? And so if you have four hearts or 4 spades, you bid the one you don't have. So is that a convention or just bridge logic?
I don't know.
I mean, that's a little more. I know what a convention is. Okay, is 1430 is a convention. Okay. Of course, it's not logical to a key card Blackwood. Why would you choose 1 or 4 or 3 or 0? You know what I mean? That's almost a definition. Although maybe you can figure it out because in hearts you can get the queen in without going past the level of safety. You can show that. I'm sorry, in spades you can using 1430.
I think you're picking things that are sort of like you're speaking from a very experienced bridge player point of view.
Right. and remember, I said to Zeke called it the wonder bids. I wonder what the guy means. I'll give you an example.
And what was his batting average on those? Okay, give me an example.
It's really good because I'll give you a hand, and it was repeated many times because we're in the finals of the North American Swiss. So I guess the top 8 teams get to play the same hand, so you can see how they handle it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I had a monster hand. I had ace, king, jack, 7th. King, queen, 10, 9, 5th. That's 12. And a stiff ace somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's clubs or diamonds. It didn't matter. Let's say it's clubs.
Okay.
So
got it.
On my right, I get a diamond opening, and I'm Michael's. Okay. And Zeke, all he has is the ace, 3rd of hearts, and really nothing else in his hand.
Which is
not a very good hand.
7.
So he bids. So it goes 1 diamond, 2 diamonds. Zeke bids 2 hearts. And now 1 diamond, 2 diamonds, which is both majors, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
1 diamond. So he knows I have both majors. And now I bid 4 clubs, which was my void. Okay.
Okay.
Zeke bids dutifully 4 hearts. And now I bid 4 spades, which means my spades are so good I can play them alone, even though you tell me you like hearts, 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 and hearts.
Right.
It turns
Right.
out that Zeke had 3 spades and 3 hearts to the ace.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this guy doing? He's got a hand big enough for spades, and he bothers to show me, which now 4 clubs. Since I am 5'5", I have to have a splinter, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so jumping to 4 clubs must be a void. So he's showing me a club void and a hand that can play spades by himself. And he says, I'm still not sure what to do. So he immediately bid 5 spades, and I bid 6 spades. And 6 spades rolls, but also 6 hearts happens to roll on the hand. But that's not important. But getting to the right contract, most people just bid 4 spades. 6 of the 8 tables, and somebody got 5 hearts, 6 hearts, and I got the 6 spades, which is a vastly superior contract.
I played against you in the trials when I think the last time they had the trials, maybe it was in Schaumburg.
Yeah, I
And
was still out there.
you were in a slam. You were playing with Eddie. I was playing with Adam Grossack.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Go ahead. I remember that.
And hearts was your side suit. You had a 4-card heart suit.
Mhm.
And I think we were in the bidding.
Mhm.
And I don't remember if your trump suit was clubs, diamonds, or spades.
Okay.
But I made one of the worst plays that I've ever made when you were declaring this deal because I pitched a heart. And so now you could not go wrong in the heart suit. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah. Well, again, that's what I call it the brain fart. I mean,
I wonder if Eddie would remember it.
I'll ask him.
3 years ago. I wonder if he will remember it because
it's online. It's still online. You can find it. They're all there.
I don't want to revisit it necessarily. I'm just telling you because I remember it was like I remember thinking like as soon as I pitched the heart, it occurred to me what I had done. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe.
Yeah, well, that happens. Well, we pioneered some new bridge. Oren and I did. One of my most proud experiences, again, it was like 3 or 4 years ago. We came in 4th in the Vanderbilt with a non-team. Me and Oren and, some were professional, but there was no big names there, on the team.
Yeah. Right.
That was one of the more exciting things. The other exciting things is for Oren and I, well, this is just crap, but it's not going to help you. I saw a defect in Jacoby 2 no trump because we're asking the 5-card suit does he have shortness?
Yeah.
Well, you'd rather have the 4-card shortness because it guarantees you an extra,
Yes.
you have 5 trump in the one hand and then as many roughs in the other hand as you come up with. And so we set it up that there was had a whole bunch of hands that had 9 trump and short, and then we divided it into working points and non-working points. For if one hand has a stiff and the other hand has like king third, that king isn't very valuable, because the king is as valuable as having deuce, deuce, deuce. I mean, there's a 50% chance that the king is worth a trick. Now, if you put the king anywhere, you have a stiff versus 3 little. The king is gold and silver because it makes the suit that the king is run because you have the ace, instead of having the ace, queen, jack, and you need a hook in that suit.
Right.
It makes the suit run. It makes it also run quickly, because you get quick discards before knock out your stoppers. And so we worked out a whole, we revised Bergen to show. So in Bergen, we can show using 3 Underberg, a preemptive raise, a constructed raise, a limit raise, a void raise with 11 plus, and a singleton with 13 plus raise. And then we get into the singletons and the voids, which now produce the slams that we need because of the 30-point deck. So the king of the suit is almost worthless. The king outside of the suit almost guarantees this slam.
What's your void raise in that structure?
Okay, so let me go to the singleton. I remember. So you with a 5-4 fit and a shortness in the 4-card suit, assuming you have the controls that you can check for, you're always just better than 50-50 of making the slam. 25 points. So it turns out 26 points, you're always better than 50-50, but not by a lot, like 52, 51. And so we have methods with relay kind of systems there, which is pretty easy to do. We can get to those extra slams that nobody can get to. We can get to those 26-point slams because we know that the points are working. That the king is in a suit that'll do some good, as opposed to being potentially a half a trick. And we actually said if we get to the 5 level, that you can go down at the 5 level. That took away from us. We have to avoid the 5 level when we should always, and get to the 6. It works out just super well.
Are you excited for live bridge to return? Because you've been dominating the online NABCs. Like, I'm not sure if you want live bridge back.
Well, Eddie and I, first of all, wanted live bridge. Eddie mainly because Eddie, I'm too busy looking at my cards, and Eddie is looking at the opponents all the time. The speed, almost like bridge tells. So he says he can't get that online, so he doesn't like it. But now he's become a convert. For me, I like the online, the tournament play because it's a social thing. One of the highlights was I was at the bar when we came in 4th in that Vanderbilt, and it was amazing. We really had a chance of actually win. In the round of 8 and 16, that everybody's on their lap, iPad or whatever, saying, "Wow, look at that hand! These guys could actually win it." I was amazed because it was a juxtaposition that all of a sudden, when we're in 3rd, 4th, I had 4 women surrounded me, and I think it's something about I am what I am, but there's that magnet, that's the drummer and a rock star, you know what I mean? So that's what the in-person stuff does, and the friends you meet. But I don't know. We're here in Florida, and we're not doing well. We just opened a club, and not too many of us, but Mikey and I try to go there a little bit just for a little practice. You know what I mean? But
Mike Capoletti, that's just
Mike Capoletti. We would be playing in the summertime. This time of year, there are 4 venues every day, and you average probably 12, 15 tables each. So call it 50 tables. And we now have 10 or 11 in one club.
Yeah, sure.
So we're down by a factor of 4. It's a little early, but it's very concerning. Because the other clubs, they can't open in this environment until the season comes by. In the season, we have, again, 4 times we have what's in the summer. But it's very scary. It may be over.
No, come on.
Well,
there's more young people playing bridge. I interviewed on this podcast, the last show we did, the C family, and the youngest one, Doug, was the youngest life master. He was 13, I think. And he said when he was playing bridge, there were no children playing bridge.
Wow.
So it's like, I think in some ways we're actually like ahead of the curve. The problem is we don't have like that. We don't have the people that are taking it up in their 20s, it's like we have more children probably, but I'm not sure that we have.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because in college, I know exactly when I can give you the precise we're not talking 1957, which sounds like ancient history. In 1957, in the league, the lounge, and we'd have 10 or 12 tables, just rubber bridge, and we could fill Cobo Hall with a regional. You know what I mean? And now the Detroit regionals 8 or 9 years ago were merely sectionals. And Zeke and I played there because that's our home. You know what I mean? And he wrote an article about that. We won every knockout, but we lost on quotient every single time that we played. I've been working with Jay, unfortunately, and we're both sort of numbers guys. And the regional attendance has been declining at a 7% compounded rate.
Wow.
For the last 10 or 12 years or something like that. Well, 7% decline says it halves in 10 years. It's just been following that ugly curve without COVID.
Mm.
And so that we're trying to work with the pros to have super regionals, which would get all the pros. We have, because we fly there, choices of where to go. Like on Labor Day weekend, you can go to Atlanta or you can go to Los Angeles or something like that. So stack them up, offer some incentives. And I don't know. The other problem, which is a huge problem, people don't know, it's a double, triple. In order to hold a tournament at a host hotel, they got to offer us a deal on ballroom space. You know what I mean? We're going to give you 300 rooms, they'll give you free ballroom space. Well, two things happen. With the internet, everybody's finding a deal better than the ACBL deal at the same hotel, so they don't even count. And the hotels don't want us to take up their valuable ball space Friday and Saturday night. Nobody cares about any of the other nights. Like our Tampa tournament, which is peak time winter, was in the convention center, not associated with a hotel. You have a 15, 20-minute drive to a nice hotel from where the site is. And so the attendance is falling like crazy in that tournament. And Florida's mid-Atlantic, and the only really bright spots.
What's the solution?
Well, I tried to get a group together, and I failed in a different sense. Eddie's solution was what he actually did. He went to Rice University and he graduated. He talked them into, this is 5 or 10 years ago, offer bridges for credit class. And they set up class, a bridge club, and a duplicate game at the university. But it's just hard for people to actually go do that. A lot of people thought that could not. I mean, they would get paid something. The payment wasn't so bad, but if you have to teach a class and you're a bridge player, how do you, how do you be absent for three out of 4 class sessions? You need to get traction. It's like we're losing traction, and once it's lost, it's hard to regain. But anyhow, it was just fun talking with you. Anyhow,
Totally.
yeah.
You're fascinating. You've got some really interesting.
Some interesting idea.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very
It's
much.
been a pleasure. Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, bye, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. I think my conversation with Mike has just started in a lot of ways. I am curious and excited to see him at the next Nationals in Austin, Texas, which is right after Thanksgiving. And I mean, I just think that Mike thinks about things like ever since he talked about the zip code, I'm like looking for people that ask, like looking for websites, for example, that ask about zip code first. And now I'm going to hit you with the double dummy. If you want to watch a new 50-minute version of the film, we're going to be doing a free screening with the ACBL at either the end of June 2021 or sometime in July, possibly August, but I doubt it. But the film is going to be available for free for all ACBL members to watch for 24 hours. And if you want to learn more about that, when it's going to happen, sign up for our email list. You can do that at doubledummymovie.com. We think this film has the potential to not only entertain bridge players, but to be something that bridge players can share with their non-bridge playing friends. And their friends will be like, oh, I get it. I get why you spend so much time playing bridge. We're also looking for partners to do virtual screening events with us, particularly bridge teachers and influencers. We had an 86-minute version of the film, which was much slower than I wanted it to be, and really eventually inspired the shorter, much tighter version. And non-bridge players, we've had several non-bridge players watch that and take up the game, like start taking lessons. So I'm really excited about the potential of this new version, and we need your support. We need the support of the diehard bridge players who are listening to this podcast to the very end. So please hit me up, john@doubledummymovie.com. You can even call me, 434-996-6274. I look forward to talking to you.